Good morning, traders. I'm Emily Bonney, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Friday, August 9th. We round out this week of trading after stocks bounced yesterday to clock one of their best days since 2022, following one of Wall Street's worst performances since 2022 on Monday. During regular trading, the S&P 500 climbed 119 points or 2.3%, its best run since late 2022, the Dow jumped 683 points, or just more than 1.25%. The Nasdaq advanced 464 points, or 2.87%. Bill, let's get into Friday with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Hi, yes, good morning, Emily. I'm watching the S&Ps. The S&Ps are negative. We're down 0.14% this morning. We were higher, but since giving back those gains, you're looking at some of the equities, and they have turned lower, which shouldn't surprise you. You had a big day yesterday. Expecting that momentum to continue, especially into this weekend, is a little bit too hopeful. We did have some positive news announcements on earnings. I mean, Gilead, Trade Desk, Sweetgreen, AKAM, Expedia, those are trading higher. China, you got to talk about China. The inflation data rose more than expected now, and their inflation is very low, so a rise in inflation is actually good for them. So the trends of their economy seem to be improving. But these Middle East tensions, they really are kind of going to be overtaking the market probably today, because Israel is expecting, a strike from Iran and its proxies to happen over the weekend, 72 hours from now. We're going to have to see how Israel responds. Iran says they feel they have to do this because that explosion happened, in their territory. They're blaming Israel for it. Israel's not saying whether they were responsible or not for it. But Iran is definitely blaming them, and they are planning to attack Israel very shortly. And then you have Ukraine. I mean, Ukraine's, what is waging its biggest cross-border incursion into Russia since the war started, and that's taken its toll. Tech sentiment, overall it's still positive. AI spending looks to be strong. Got good positive revenue numbers from Taiwan Semiconductor, and that kind of underscores the logic of, heavy AI spend. On the other hand, the legacy media firms, the traditional TV networks, they're seeing their revenue dropping, over and over again, and that's not really positive. But let's take a look overseas. Let's see what's going on. We're looking at the DAX. The DAX is up 28 points, or 0.16%. We're showing the FTSE up 38 points, or 0.47%. We're showing the CAC up 24 points, or 0.34%. Buying stocks in London are trading higher. France, their unemployment rate edged lower, down to 7.3%. Market for the last 3 months, we're looking for 7.5, so that's kind of a benefit. But European stocks were much higher. They have pulled back about 50% from their earlier gains. Then we're taking a look at last night in Asia. And Asian markets, for the most part, saw gains. We saw the Nikkei jump 193 points. We saw the Hang Seng jump 1.17%, or 198 points, but Shanghai Composite in China fell 0.27%. The thing about, the sell-off that we had earlier in this week, with Japan, I mean, it was really due to that carry trade. Carry trade is when you are borrowing money in one country and using it to invest in another. Okay, so it was all safe. It was kind of free money that you're borrowing. But then Japan raised interest rates. So when Japan raised their interest rate, that carry trade caused margin calls, and those margin calls caused them to really sell off that market hard on Monday. And that's not too crazy, but the majority of those margin calls are out of the way, so we shouldn't have that issue again. But I need to tell you, Japan's going to be raising interest rates again, probably in the next, 6-8 months. So we could see another, little shock to the system if that carry trades are still going. I was looking at the numbers, and they really have ballooned since 2014. But that the majority of that negative volatility has really been swept under the rug. It's been cleaned out, so I'm not too concerned about another drop off in the Nikkei market anytime in the short term. But oil continues to rise. We're looking at gains in oil prices this morning, up more than 0.5%. You got WTI at $76.71 a barrel. You got Brent at $79.62 a barrel. Again, it's really about this pending strike on Israel from Iran. Um, you know, that's going to cause oil to spike, and not that Israel is an oil producing nation, because it's not, but that conflict could create issues inside of that area, and Iran could block off one of the key shipping lanes for oil, so that's going to cause some supply disruptions, and that's why oil would be spiking. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens over the next 72 hours between Israel and Iran. But that's what I have for you in terms of a market morning update, Emily.
Bill, sifting through some of the details that you mentioned there in your opening, you did mention a number of earnings, and we're going to get to earnings action right now on the show. So, Bill, what is going on in terms of earnings today?
We had a lot of good earnings last night. Well, Take-Two wasn't one of them, ticker TTWO. They missed by $1.50 on lower revenue. You look at Take-Two this morning, it's actually trading higher. It's up 7.22%. But then you look at the trade desk, ticker TTD. I like this one. Their EPS was, they came in with a beat. You look at the stock this morning, it's up 4.89%. So that's positive. Gilead Sciences, ticker GILD, they beat by 41 cents on higher revenue. You look at Gilead this morning, it's up 0.8%. And then there's Sweetgreen, ticker SG, Sam Grace. They missed by 3 cents, but it was done on higher revenue. And this is a stock that's moving off the higher revenue figures. If you look at the stock this morning, even with that miss, it was done on higher revenue. That stock is up 24.76% this morning. Big gainer, big gainer. Then upcoming on Monday morning, we got Monday.com, MNDY, Michael, Nancy, David Yellow. Their EPS is 54 cents. Expected move is 16.84%. And then you got KE Holdings, ticker BEKE, Boy Edward, Kilo Edward. Their EPS is 22 cents. Expected move is 9.40% when they release Monday morning, Emily.
Bill, you mentioned Sweetgreen in there. That was your pick of the day yesterday, up 24% after those earnings. We may have given it away, but by the end of the show, we will do a full recap on that pick of the day. For now, we're going to get to the economic events of the day. Bill, what is going on there?
It's a really light day today. I mean, we get the Baker Hughes rig count coming out at 130. I think the market is still very happy with the weekly jobless claims that came out yesterday morning, which fell to 233,000, which was a decrease of 17,000 from the previous week. And then you got these comments from Richmond Fed Bank President Thomas Barkin, who spoke yesterday, and he really expressed optimism about the U.S. economy, suggesting it's moving towards what he called normalization rather than into recession. He highlighted the current unemployment rate of 4.3%. And inflation at 2.5, as indicators that the economy is stable and stabilizing. So, we don't have next week we got a lot of economic data coming out, but today is very light. But we'll be watching to see if there's any comments from any Federal Reserve's officials that happened today, Emily.
And Bill, you'll be able to see that if it does, hit the tape, because you have your NewsWare alerts set up for those economic reports and events. And as things pick up next week, you'll be able to keep, finger on a pulse of all of that. Obviously, the earnings you're watching using your NewsWare as well, but you're also setting up alerts for other types of data and information. News coming out of things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news. You look at other catalysts. You take your stocks, like your Dow 30 stocks and your FANG stocks, you group them together. This way you're watching trends on any given trading day. So, Bill, what else do you see as possibly moving the markets today?
I'm just doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I'm showing 18 higher, 7 lower. But my FANG stocks, they were all gainers. They were all in the green earlier this morning. They have since all turned negative. They're all trading lower, and that's not good for the S&Ps. That's why you're seeing the S&Ps down a tenth of 1% this morning. You look at some of the news behind the headlines, like Amazon. Amazon's flat to lower this morning. But UK regulators are said to be opening up, a formal inquiry into the merger or investment that Amazon has into Anthropic. So that's not really positive for Amazon, but it is only an investigation. It's not really saying that they're fining them or anything. So let's keep that in mind. Netflix is trading lower by 0.8%. But there is some positive news out there because there's the news out there on the media front really is stemming about losses in traditional TV networks. This is really showing the power of these streaming services. People pay directly for these services. They're not doing it on advertising. So, well, I guess they are kind of doing it on advertising with some of these new packages that Netflix has come out with. But they are still very strong, and that's why you're seeing gains in some of these streaming services. And then who was it last night? Paramount Global came out last night, and they actually showed that their streaming service is profitable. So you got to keep an eye on that for Netflix and the other streaming services. Tesla, I mean, stories out there this morning about EV sales said to be stalling and weakening. Not good for Tesla. I mean, you look at Tesla this morning; it's down, it's about a tenth of 1% this morning. We'll see how it moves. It's got $10 of weakness though that I could see happening. In terms of Dow Jones 30 stocks, we're going to start off with Intel, ticker INTC. Stock's down over 1% this morning. There's a news report out there from Moody's where they expect Intel to have significant weaker profitability over the next 12 to 18 months. Yeah, that definitely is true. Apple's reportedly launching Mac Mini models using their M4 chip. Microsoft, ticker MSFT, they got to deal with this Delta issue. I mean, Delta appears headed for legal action to blame Microsoft and CrowdStrike for that outage that they had that disrupted all their flights the other week. Hard to blame Microsoft for it. You can crowdsource maybe, but from my understanding, Microsoft and CrowdStrike was offering help, and Delta was refusing it. So when you're refusing the help, you're kind of creating making the problem bigger for yourself. Johnson & Johnson, need to point out, volatility is kind of low there. They got that $8 billion talcum powder settlement that's drawing a close soon. And with low volatility, the stock could move higher. So let's keep an eye on shares of Johnson & Johnson. I really like trading low volatility stocks because, you can get, especially when you got a catalyst event in front of it, it really bodes well. Johnson & Johnson is up, slightly this morning. In terms of guidance news, Dropbox, ticker DBX, David Boy X-Ray. We're seeing Q3 revenue coming in 635 million to 638 million. Street estimate has it as 639.2 million though. Sweet Garden, ticker SG, they raised their full year 2024 revenue to 670 680 million. Street estimate has it at 674 million. It's kind of an uptick. It was raised from their earlier guidance. AKAM, they see Q3 revenue coming in $1.56 to $1.62. Street estimates $1.54. That's an uptick. Take Two, TTWO, they see Q2 EPS coming in $2.30, a negative $2.15 to a negative $2.30. Street estimate had it at 99 cents. So yeah, that's pretty ugly. FIVN, ticker Frank, India, Victor, Nancy, they raised their full year 2024 EPS view to $2.25 to $2.29. Street estimates $2.19. In terms of shareholders meetings, I just, it's not a shareholders meeting, but there's an Oppenheimer Tech Conference that starts on Monday. Verizon, Moody's, the ticker AI, they're all going to be there. Could be something. Merger news, Merck is going to be acquiring CN201 from Curon Biopharmaceutical. Okay. In terms of buyback news, ticker SNA, Sam Nancy Apple, Snap Online, they announced a 500 million share repurchasing plan last night. In terms of catalyst calls, Virtue Financial, ticker VIRT, Victor India, Richard Tom, Citibank opened up a 90-day positive catalyst watch on the stock and did some data announcements. But that's what I have for you in terms of news hitting the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. It is now that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what do you have for us to end this week?
Go with ticker BEKE, Boy Edward Kilo Edward. That's KE Holdings. Earnings are out Monday morning. EPS is 22 cents. Expected move is 9.40%. It's not significant, but it is. But on a percentage wise, it's nice. You're looking at the call volume from yesterday, 15,085 versus put volume of 5,885. Not 3-1, but it's up there. Open interest 229,542 versus 97,779. That's 2-1. That's positive. That's not widely followed by the major brokers, but the ones that are are raising price targets. So that's positive to see. In terms of an entry point, I gotta tell you, I want to get in 1350. 1375 maybe. I mean, it's trading 1391 on the bid right now, so that is possible. Market is going to open up weaker, so you need to kind of expect that could really push stock prices lower. So 1350, 1375 seems like a good entry point for me. But that's my stock of the day. KE Holdings, ticker BEKE, Boy Edward Kilo Edward, Emily.
KE Holdings, it is today. We will follow that along with you. And as I promised, coming up in just a few moments, we will do a recap on yesterday's pick of the day before we sign off for the weekend. But ahead of that, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our Hot Off the Press segment. Bill, take it away.
Okay, what do we see here this morning? Lilly, ticker LLY. Eli Lilly is gaining on Novo's Nordisk Disk and the obesity rate. That's true. Don't count on Viking Therapeutics and Pfizer. Those guys have weight loss drugs in the works too. Morgan Stanley issued a strong endorsements for defensive stocks in a note this morning. We're talking things like General Dynamics, ticker GD, L3 Harris Technologies, ticker LHX. I mean, they downgraded LHX, but they're very positive on General Dynamics, ticker GD. Let's see what else we got. RKLB, Richard Kilo Larry Boy, Rocket Lab competes hot fire tests for the new rocket engine. Interesting. Gap Stores, ticker GPS. They're going to be changing their ticker symbol to GAP to GAP on August 22nd. It always should have been GAP, but right now it's GPS. They're changing to GAP, August 22. PRGO, Paul Richard Grace Oscar, infant baby formula product recall of 16,500 cans due to elevated levels of vitamin D, PRGO. AS&D, Apple Sam Nancy David, they got a PDUFA date on August 14th, which is next week, Wednesday, I believe, for a thyroidism treatment, for hyperthyroidism treatment. Para, ticker PARA, Paramount Global streaming business shows profitability and earnings for the first time. USO, Uncle Sam Oscar on watch as volatility is on the rise as Iran may strike Israel this weekend. Walt Disney, ticker DAS, company plans to spend at least $1 billion every year in the UK, the Middle East, and Africa over the next 5 years to produce movies and TV shows. Macy's, Target, Walmart, these retailers are fueling the summer rush of imports to the United States this year as companies guard against potential port workers strike and ongoing shipping disruptions from attacks in the Red Sea. The holiday shopping season is said to be, kind of shortened this year. One of the indications of holiday shopping is typically the back to school sales. You watch the back to school sales, and that is an indicator of how the holiday season will be shaping up. If you notice, they've already started those back to school sales like 2 weeks ago, so they're trying to extend it. They'll probably do the same with the holiday period as well. That's all I'm saying this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we sign off for the weekend, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was Sweet Green. You did tell us that they missed by 3 cents on higher revenue back up during your earnings rundown. The company reported a Q2 EPS of a loss of 13 cents. The consensus here had been a loss of 10 cents. Revenue did rise 21% to $184.6 million, and that was ahead of analyst expectations of $180.8 million. Same-store sales increased 9% year over year. Interesting to note, the company said it's outfitting a growing number of its restaurants with automated kitchen technologies, making its salads, helping to increase its restaurant level margins. You also gave us that note about their full year guidance during your NewsWare alerts breakdown, and that was up from their previous outlook. We did mention it is up more than 20% this morning. We may have given it away. How did your call work out?
It was fabulous. I mean, listen, the stock opened yesterday high. It was elevated. It opened up at $26.05, but then it fell down to $23.88. And by the end of the day, it reversed that decline, and it climbed all the way back up, beat the opening price, and actually closed out at $26.25. Then earnings hit. After the bell, it hit a high of 32.60. I mean, let's face it, the bid was 32.15. The offer was 32.60. So that's like a 25% move. And you look at the stock this morning, it's offered at 32.75, 32.60 to 32.75. That's like a 25% gain in a single day. I mean, Sweet Garden, ticker SG, that was a really good one. And I just want to point out one thing. I mean, I know the day before I did App Lovin', and I said, I was holding on to it for a little bit longer. I didn't want to sell it just yet because I thought it was turning around, and sure enough, it did. I mean, App Lovin', I mean, we got in the 68, something like that. And, you look at the stock this morning, it's trading 76.70. I mean, it did that huge reversal because the earnings were actually good, but there was just that initial sell-off right after the call. But then it climbed back to even, and then it just popped. As soon as the market opened yesterday. So App Lovin' was definitely a winner. You just had to wait a little bit longer, and it doesn't happen often. I mean, I can only think of one or two other times, where we said hold on to it, don't sell out just yet. And they've always worked out. So App Lovin' was a big winner yesterday. App Lovin', ticker APP, and Sweet Green, two big winners yesterday. Got to be happy with that. I know I am, Emily.
Definitely happy with that. Like you said, App Lovin', a little slow on the uptick there, but eventually did hit. That was a win. So a check in the win column there, and certainly a check in the win column for that Sweet Green pick. And we will check in with you on Monday about today's KE Holdings pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here Monday and each weekday morning next week at NewsWare's Trade Talk, when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Bonney, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.